Vitality have gone from winning a fair few events in 2023 to winning absolutely nothing in 2024. Okay, if you want to count finishing first place in the Blast Spring groups, you can. But I'm not, because all they had to do was beat OG and Astralis twice, and this was Astralis with Blame F that we all know kind of sucked. So I'm not counting it, and you can see that reflect here. These are their results, and this is their overall world ranking. And back in 2024, they were the best team for a fair amount of time. They were able to win Rio, back in 2023. Early in 2024, they stayed at number one before other teams surpassed them. And even though they brought Mezzi in towards the end of this year and they had some good results with him, in 2024 so far hasn't actually been as good as you might have hoped. So, do Vitality need to make moves? Are there options that are better for them? I've got a lot of opinions on this, and I think I will be giving some of my options coming up. But first, let's look at the numbers. I know you guys love the numbers, okay? Let's start with what they're doing well. Okay, CT side, it turns out they're not doing well, so I shouldn't look at this. It's, oh no, it is CT side they're doing well, isn't it? I've confused myself. Where are they? They're not even on this list. Okay, no, it is CT side they're struggling. T side, they're doing very well. Okay, this is in big events so far this year. They're the third best team, just behind Spirit, who have been great, and they are well and truly above a bunch of these other teams like FaZe, like G2, like Eternal Fire, Virtus Pro, Na'Vi. They're doing way better than all these teams on T side, and these numbers look great. They're doing very well at getting trade kills. Just all in all, I think clearly this team is doing a good job on T side. CT side, though, at big events. Listen, this looks okay at first. You say, okay, middle of the pack sort of team, but you look at the teams that are around them. A worse CT side win percentage than Liquid, than Mongols, close to Furia. That is not good for a team that wants to be at this level. Again, they're managing to beat Na'Vi, who did well at the major, but haven't done well outside of that. But clearly, CT side is the bigger issue for this team. I think that's clear to see. And by the way, Spirit again. Oh my goodness gracious. Top by a mile. Top by a landslide. Mal's up there as well. And so, you don't often see a team really seem to struggle more on CT side. And so, we should look at the numbers for the players to figure that out. So you can see on CT side, stats-wise, ZywOo, always going to be great. Clear that he's not a problem on this team. Spinks, pretty solid in his positions. I think definitely a good to very good player in his positions. And then you get these three players all at similar ratings. Mezzi, Apex, and Flames. And you've got to ask, okay, why are all these players just doing average, right? None of these players have done that well. Over on T side, by the way, Flames, bottom on CT. You might start looking at him and thinking he should be stepping up. He's actually been very, very good on T side. And I think you can see that in the way he plays. He's always seemed like a pretty good T-sided player. Very good on those entries. So I think clearly he also kind of justifies himself on this team, at least on T side. And then you see Mezzi and Apex, again, struggling. Spink's doing a pretty good job. I think he's a pretty solid, consistent piece. And ZywOo, once again, right at the top. There's more we need to look into, though, because those are the basic numbers. But we can look into their positions as well. And this basically tells you, okay, what is a player's target rating? What rating should they be hitting based on averages? And how far above that average they are. So ZywOo, based on his positions, should be averaging a 1.06 rating. Don't know why that just disappeared. It's just completely messing with me. But you get the point. We can go ahead and search up Vitality again. Wow, my computer really doesn't like me today, okay? It doesn't want me to tell you the truth about what's wrong with Vitality. But I can tell you for sure, it's not ZywOo, as you can see. Flames actually doing a fantastic job. Way above average in his positions on T side. 1.08 target rating. Has been doing way better in the actual tournaments. Spinks, also above as expected. And you can also see, I've filtered this for big events and top 20 to focus on the really big games. Spinks has been maybe slightly worse in the bigger games, but not massively. Mezzi on T side has some positions that he should be doing, okay in. And yeah, he's doing an okay job. And then Apex gives himself the worst positions. Maybe a little worse than you'd want him to be, but overall, that's what you expect from your in-game leader. He's going to be below average. What about CT side then? What about CT side? Well, once again, ZywOo well and truly above where he should be. In big events, it's not quite been as big of an improvement, but still good from his positions. Spinks, yeah, again, a little above average. You know, not as much as when we look at this, but overall still clearly good in his spots. But then you come to Apex. According to the positions Apex is playing, he should be putting up the same CT rating as ZywOo. This guy has put himself in incredible CT positions. Outside on Nuke, that's a star position. Connector on Mirage, that's a star position. Be aggressive player on Inferno, oftentimes a star position. And yet you can see his actual rating, 1.00, pretty far below what you would expect. Flames in quite a few tough spots, actually, you know, playing some anchor and supportive positions. And Mezzy also playing anchoring positions. Even worse positions than Flames, you would say. But in the big events, he's actually been alright on CT side. It's in some of the other events that he has been struggling and has been below what you would expect. I will say, when I watch Mezzy play, I still don't know if I see him fully comfortable in those anchor positions. But I do need to show you a very important fact of these Apex spots, okay? You look at this, okay, Vertigo, he's playing A anchor. If we have a list of all the positions and the averages, Vertigo A anchor, it's up there. It's a pretty strong position, especially on Vertigo. It's kind of the best or second best rifle position you can get. Outside on Nuke, this is the best rifler position out there. In fact, the best position out there, period. Okay, some people who play here don't rifle, so we've got to take that into account. But still, this is a position for star players, and Apex is playing there. Now listen, he's not going to be playing the exact same way as star players. You can maybe lower those expectations a little, but you still need numbers from that position on CT's side. And again, it just keeps going. Connector on Mirage, yet again, one of the best rifling positions out there, given to your in-game leader. We can go even further, you know, we can say, be aggressor on Inferno. Okay, we can go down the list, we can look for it. I think it's higher than that. Indeed, it's one of the best positions you can get. So this is worth talking about. And listen, I am going to say, again, is Apex playing exactly the same way star players will play? Is he playing more supportively? Obviously, he probably is, right? But at the same time, I do think it's worth looking at, is this the best positions for Apex to be playing? Now, there's two ways you can go about this, because I think a lot of in-game leaders, especially on T side, like to put themselves pretty central in the action so they can see more clearly what's going on, and so that they can more easily and quickly call the overall game plan for the team, right? If you can see yourself, you're in the middle of the action, you can quickly say, oh, I see that there's this happening here on my screen. Guys, let's go back. Or, guys, let's completely commit because I can see it's going to be a good chance to take. That makes sense. I think on CT side, it is less important. On CT side, I think you can play anchor positions. And the problem is, again, Mezzy doesn't even exactly look comfortable in those anchor positions. Like, his rating in big events is pretty good on CT side. I don't know if I always see that necessarily when I watch him on the server. He did play very well recently. And again, I'm not saying Vitality are in some terrible position. Don't get me wrong. They're making top 4s, top 3s at the majority of their events this year. But if you're a team that wants to win events, it is a bit scary. Going from last year, you were winning quite a lot, to now suddenly, oh, the last win hasn't come for a while, actually. It was all the way back last year when there was this transition to CS2. Felt like a lot of teams weren't strong back then. I think Vitality were one of the first teams to really play great quality CS at the start of CS2. Even FaZe, I think, were their competitors at that time. For me, they were a little too loose, and they didn't always look like they were 100% on the same page. And so I think that's why Vitality were able to show that high level. Maybe the rest of the scene wasn't 100% up there. And now other teams have come through, and you have to ask, okay, does something need to be changed? I have a few options for what Vitality can do. I think first option, and by the way, I'm going to say the players that 100% stay for me, okay, ZywOo, Spinks. ZywOo, incredible, obviously, just going to be the player, the franchise player for this team forever. Spinks, really good in his roles. I think he's the man I will look to in the future, as in when I think he's playing well, he can be the best at his position in the world. I've seen him outplay Rops in games in similar positions. I've seen him outlurk people. I don't think he's been always doing that this year, but I think he can do it. And when he does do it, I expect this team to be very successful. I think Flames should probably stay as well. CT side maybe hasn't been as good, but I think what he provides you on T side with his entries is pretty undeniable. I do think actually Flames is one that maybe you could think about, getting rid of, but I don't think you go that route. I don't think you get rid of Apex either, but I think you might want to change some of his roles. And so I think the only player that could maybe be on the chopping block is, for me, mezii. I don't know if I'd necessarily make this change yet, but I think one of the options would be to get rid of mezii and bring in someone who's more comfortable in anchor roles. I don't know if I like this solution, to be honest, because, yeah, sure, okay, Apex, if you want to play some star rifle positions, some game leaders do that. Like Alexi B can do that sometimes, for example. He doesn't always like going in with the pack. But I feel like Apex could just play like weaker roles and they could just get way more firepower in. Like, I don't see why that would be an issue. Especially because he's kind of already doing it on T side and just doing a fine job. Maybe CT side is a little different, a little harder to anchor sometimes, but I do think that is a very real option. I also think, could you ever consider shuffling the roles to give mezii a little more freedom on CT side? Could he play those star anchor roles? It is a question because he's definitely done it in the past, right? At a lower level on Fnatic, he would play premium positions. He would play like, overpass A rifle, for example. He would play these very star-heavy rifle positions. I don't know if you want to put that pressure on him. I don't know if he's capable of being a star player at the top level. But it is something to consider, whether Vitality wanted to try that or not. I do think one of mezii's greatest strengths is his versatility, and that has arguably left him in a tough position here, where he's actually just had to take a lot of the roles that he's been given. And yeah, I think he can do kind of an okay-ish job at them, but I don't think he can do a good enough job for where Vitality want to be at these current roles. And so the more I think about it, the more it does feel like maybe mezii would have to go. But if mezii were to go, I don't think I'd want to bring in a player who's going to play anchor positions on CT side. I think I'd want to bring in a player who is just going to take some of these Apex roles. I'm not going to lie. Why can't we bring in like an actual star rifler and say, Apex, listen, I understand maybe you think it's better for you to play these positions, but if I'm the coach, I'm actually looking at it and saying, okay, Apex, unless you can start winning us tournaments playing like this, and unless you can show me why this team isn't winning trophies, because they have the pieces, they're very close to winning trophies. Unless Apex can show me this is going to work with him playing these very high fragging impact positions, if I'm the coach, if he's not got an excuse, if he's not got a reason, I'm saying, listen, Apex, you're going back to more anchor roles, you're going back to the weaker positions, you're going back to playing those harder spots, and we're just going to bring in a standout rifler to play those positions. Because if you have that, oh my god, you are cooking. You are cooking. Now listen, some of the other players would have to take some sacrifices, okay? I think Flames would maybe have to sacrifice even more of his CT positions, which maybe wouldn't be ideal. Okay, maybe some other players would have to give some up too. But there have been rumors, for example, of someone like Twists joining. I did see there were rumors of this that were going ahead, and then they immediately got taken away or whatever. Like someone said, no, I never said that. I'm not, these rumors, listen, I don't listen to them. I don't really listen to them. There's a few people I'll listen to, but there are so many out there that just chuck things out there. And if you chuck enough things out there, eventually you land them, right? So I don't really take them too seriously, but could be interesting. Could be interesting. And there are definitely other players out there you could think about. I also wonder, the other question is, let's say you did bring in like an anchor player. I don't know. Let's say you brought in like Perfecto for mezii, which sounds like an upgrade. Is there a way like someone else on the team could maybe take some of those more active, star CT rifle positions? I think the problem is I don't know if Spinks would like to be in some of those spots that are really active. Like, would Spinks like to be in Connector on Mirage? Would he like to be outside on Nuke? He might like to be outside on Nuke, to be fair. I think that's one where you can outbrain your opponents. But I get the vibe that for those more hectic, active positions, Spinks doesn't like that as much, right? He likes to be on his own, in control of whatever he can do, and he's very, very good at that. So I wouldn't take that away from him. But then it's the question of, could Flames step up on CT? Oh, I don't know. I don't really think so. And so you start to get into this awkward position where maybe there isn't someone else that could step up to play those spots on the team. I guess the other question, if you were really going wild with it, is would you want ZywOo to just start like rifling and just get a different AWPer in? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I do think he could solve some of those problems and just be that star rifler. It could be fun to watch. And it's not like he's AWPing all the time anyway, especially on T side, but realistically, I think you let ZywOo do what ZywOo does best. I think if you're telling him to do anything different, you're probably overthinking. Overall then, what do I think is the best solution for Vitality? It's an interesting one because I wouldn't have hated seeing them try to give Mezzy some of these Apex CT positions sooner and just see how he did. Because I also think you could try that out and it could make it easier to transition if you already are targeting a player. You could just slot him in if you switch some of those Mezzy positions and just see how it works. But it's also it's a weird mishmash of roles right now. It's really weird having Apex in all these star rifler positions. And so I honestly think whether a player break coming up, if I was going to make a move, which I don't think is necessary, but at the same time, if I'm Vitality and I want to win top tier trophies, I do think the best option could genuinely be to get rid of Mezzy. It's a shame. I love Mezzy. I think he's a great player. I think he's very versatile. I just don't know if he's quite good enough to be on a team competing for trophies, which is a shame. Because I think if he was good enough to be on a team competing for trophies, it would be on this team. However, the thing you have to consider is he's just had that great final, man. He has just had that great final at Dallas where he was actually the one player trying to carry this team through. And that makes it tough. That makes it tough because you start to think, could he actually just suddenly turn it round? It's not out of the question. Sometimes you see it. Just 6 months in, a player, suddenly it clicks for them. Especially when you've probably had to sort of transition roles. You're coming into a new system. I think you can leave it. You can give it time. But if I was forced to make a move, it probably would be Mezzy out for some sort of star rifler. Someone like a Twist wouldn't be a bad shout. And I would say, listen, Apex, we've tried it your way. Assuming that Apex is the one who wants these positions in the first place, I would say, listen, Apex, we've tried this out. Whether it was the coach's decision or whether it was his decision, it hasn't worked to win trophies. We want to win trophies, and we feel like you should go back to your more supportive positions. We'll bring a star rifler in, and we'll say, hey, that's one more player. Yes, someone like Flames might have to take a hit, but on T side, that's where the most value from Flames is coming, and he's already playing in like pretty hard positions on T side. So I think that works out. You could argue that the team will still have a clear weakness in that Flames and Apex playing a lot of the harder CT roles might be exploitable. I don't know if it fully fixes things on CT side, but I also think if you brought like a Twist in and he starts playing Connector, for example, you could easily go ahead and see him start to just get you into such big advantages early that you can have weaknesses elsewhere and it doesn't even matter. And so I do think that that would be the change I would make if I was forced to make one. And I think they should be at least talking to players, at least putting floaters out there. But I still think it's worth waiting and seeing just for a little bit longer. And hey, listen, if Mezzy has a really good end to this season, man, does he put Vitality in a tough spot. Unless they start winning trophies. Because then if they start winning trophies with Mezzy playing well, cool, it's chill. It's all working. We don't need to make a change. But yeah, sometimes you've got to make tough decisions. And listen, I really love Mezzy as a player. I think it's great having a UK player doing so well. But my gut tells me you might have to make that move in the future. And it would suck for Mezzy. But I do think Vitality should be winning trophies. I think that's where they should be. And I will say, maybe Xtaz is going to have to take the reins a little bit more here. Again, I'm assuming that it's Apex wanting to play these CT spots. Who knows if that's actually true? It's obviously to some extent a team decision. But I do think, whether it's Xtaz's idea or not, if they don't start winning trophies soon with them playing like this, something's got to give. Interesting to talk about Vitality. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.